Listen up, get ready, I'm not gonna take no more. There's a revolution, a revelation going on in my soul. Buckle up, get ready, we're not gonna sit back.
Welcome back to Live from the Heartland for the week of June 24th. We are recording it on the 21st, and it brings me a lot of pleasure once again to bring on someone who has been so gracious to come on this show every time he's been asked. Usually we talk serious politics. I know that literature and politics do mix sometimes, but we're going to focus on literary deaths today. So once again, I present Don Rose. Hello, Don. How are you today?
I am wonderful. Always glad to join you when I can. I took a little, on my weekly column, which is 98% politics. I do an occasional thing on art or this and that, an occasional book review. It struck me a few days ago that three literary giants have all died just within a month of each other. Martin Amis, who many people think was the greatest living British writer, who was a great fan of American writers. His favorite writers of all were Saul Bellow and Vladimir Nabokov, who considered himself an American, even though he was Russian-born. Anyway, Martin Amis died on May 19th. He was 73, the youngest of the three deaths. And then on June 13th, someone who many people consider the greatest living American writer, I could have supported that concept. Cormac McCarthy died at age 89, just on the verge of being 90, trying to catch up with me. He'll never catch me. And then the day after McCarthy died, a lesser-known figure, Robert Gottlieb, who was considered one of the great literary editors of our time, who edited Nobel Prize winners and John le Carré's international thrillers and Lauren Bacall's autobiography, and just a huge wide range of books. He died. He was also, by the way, the editor of the New Yorker for 5 years, which is, many people consider the best general interest magazine we've ever had. And he kept the standard, and then he ran into a dispute with the new owner of all the magazines in that group. So anyway,
let me ask you, the only guy I know in this group that I've read is Cormac McCarthy. And I know when I go to El Paso, and I first started going down there just after 2002, I think it was, people would show me where he had lived. And then I read a couple of his books. I read Blood Meridian. And I got to say that as much as people talk about the great prose of this guy, to me, all I can remember is Dead Indians. I mean, it was just the most gruesome book I think I'd ever read. Your take on Cormac McCarthy?
Well, Cormac McCarthy, I think maybe I summed it up in my column when I referred to him as the poet laureate of American violence and our violent underbelly. And he was one of those people, along with Larry McMurtry, to turn around the whole concept of the Old West that we used to have, and of the cowboy legend that we used to have, and expose, as in Blood Meridian, the killing of the Indians. But he was also, as he went on, I think many people might have seen the movie
No Country for Old Men. Yeah.
Country for Old Men. And you remember that Javier Bardem won, and a lot of people were worried about the character he played. He was a cold-blooded murderer who chose gruesome ways to kill people and won an Academy Award for that thing. Now, I know a lot of people can't read about violence and don't like to go to movies that are violent and so on. I grant that that's very difficult, as say, used to say on TV before a bloody scene, this is going to be a little difficult to watch, or it's hard to watch. But his whole late work from Blood Meridian on was devoted to the violence, the ugly violence of the Old West. Although he had one big bestseller, and
The Road, was that the one that?
The Road sold well. That was a dystopian novel where you're going through the ruins of Earth as it's gone. I was referring to All the Pretty Horses, which I think was his first book after Blood Meridian, and it turned out to be a very big hit. It was, well, somebody put it that for the first time he wrote a book about somebody you could cheer as a protagonist, because all of his other protagonists were not people you'd want to spend a lot of time with, but it was a wonderful story, upending. It had its violent moments, but not to the extent that Blood Meridian or The Road has. The Road is a very dystopian book, but it also made a movie, and it seems to me that it was one of 3 or 4 rather interesting books by serious writers about the end of the Earth, or the end of civilization on the Earth. And there is no question that his style is absolutely brilliant. He started writing in a more, when he was living in the South, he started writing what was Southern regionalism that was derived from William Faulkner, and his prose was a little closer to Faulkner's. He wasn't an imitator, but you could tell that it was derived from the kind of biblical writing that Faulkner did. I personally feel that Faulkner is still the greatest American novelist of the last century, but that's always debatable. That was something I used to talk about with James Baldwin many years ago. We had more. I think we had more discussions when I knew him in Paris, and I think we had more discussions about Faulkner than we did about race.
Wow.
Of course, this was when he was coming out as a novelist. He had just published Go Tell It on the Mountain, so we really talked a lot of literature, and that's what he wanted to talk about.
All right. Well, Don Rose, tell us a little bit about Martin Amis and Robert Gottlieb. Maybe more Robert Gottlieb, because he's an American, and I'm more likely to probably read that. But these are guys I don't know a lot about. So give us a little bit what you want to share.
Well, he, for one thing, he edited the novels of one of our truly great American writers, Nobel Prize winner Toni Morrison. He'll bid fair to become. We don't know to what extent he shaped his novels, but he also edited another Nobel Prize winner, V.S. Naipaul, who's a totally different writer, British writer. And the funny story that people remember about him is, I guess there's 2 funny stories. One of them is the fact that he had a novel from a young World War veteran with a manuscript that was called Catch 18. And he thought it was a very good book, a very funny book. I think it's possibly one of the funniest books I've ever read, at the same time as it's a tragic book about what happened in that war. And it turned out that another sort of a pop writer, I forget his name, was coming out with a book called Mila 18. And so Gottlieb says, we got to change the name of your book so there won't be any confusion. And how about Catch 22?
Right.
That seems to have stuck and rung a bell. The other great story about him was that he received a 1,000,000-word manuscript from Robert Caro, C-A-R-O, who many people know has written this monstrosity, I should monstrously sized, a 4-volume biography of Lyndon Johnson. But this was his first book, and it was about a great character who ran New York and was called the Power Broker, which today is considered one of the truly great biographies in the English language. And what Gottlieb did was cut 400,000 words, almost 500,000 words out of a 1,000,000-word book, out of the Power Broker. And Caro, I'm sure, was pained at every cut, but what he wound up with was almost a work of genius. So he was, one of the, we don't really hear too much about book editors and so on, unless they come out and they wind up with a string of people that you say, well, there must be something there if you can bring us some of these books. So I'm sorry.
We're running out of time.
Well, I'm almost running out of words. Me run out of words.
You did great, Don, and I'll be in touch with you real soon. We'll talk more politics next time you're on. But I like literature. I might look at some of these books and read a little more Cormac McCarthy. Thanks for joining us.
Cormac McCarthy. Read All the Pretty Horses first, and that'll get you back into it.